Today we're going to be looking at angles in triangles and quadrilaterals. Your objectives are to make sure that you know the angle facts for triangles and quadrilaterals, and then be able to use methods of calculations which will help us to calculate missing angles in these shapes. Here are your starter problems. I'd like you to do these 5 questions. Spend no more than 10 minutes completing them. Once you are through, resume the video to check your answers. Here are your answers. For the first one, we have 10 minus 8 divided by 4. So for bit mass, we have to divide first. 8 divided by 4 is 2. So 10 minus 2 is equal to 8. It says we need to simplify our ratio here for number 2. So we can divide by 15 on both sides. And we'll end up with 45 divided by 15, 3. And 15 divided by 15 is 1, so our answer is 3 to 1. You might have divided by 5 and then by 3. That's also fine. Alright, for part 3 it says solve 10 minus x is equal to 2. So we need to check what number are we taking away from 10. That will give us 2. And that means x is going to be equal to 8. For number 4 it says that we need to find the median of the list of numbers, and remember now that median is the middle number when the numbers are in order. So our first number 12, then 38, then 45, then 54, then 55, then 62, then 63, then 73. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, just to check that we have all the numbers. Yep. And then we find our middle one by crossing off from the ends, going inward. And so we have 2 numbers left in the middle, so we'll add them together, divide by 2, and that will give us 54.5. Right, so that is the median. Median is 54.5. Final question says we need to work out the perimeter of this compound shape. We don't know this length, we don't know this length, so we need to work them out because perimeter is to add all the sides. So the entire length at the top is 10. At the bottom, we've started at the same point, but we stopped at 7. So to get out to this point here, we'd need 3 more. So this length is 3 centimeters. Okay, on this side where we have 6, that's the total height. So coming from the top down to this point, it is 3. So to get down to our 6, we need 3 more. So that means this height is 3. So what we need to do is add the sides now. 10 plus 6 plus 7 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3. All right, and just add that, we'll get 16, 26, 29, 32. So our perimeter is 32 centimeters. So for our topic, the first bit that we're going to do is angles in a triangle. You need to make a note that angles in a triangle add to 180 degrees. So there are 3 angles in a triangle, and all 3 should add together to give 180 degrees. So in our first example here, what we'll do then to find x, the unknown value, is to add the 2 values that we know. So 80 plus 60 is equal to 140. Now x is going to be 180. The total angles in the triangle, subtract those 2 and we'll end up with 40 degrees. So that's the size of x. Here we have an isosceles triangle, so we have to know about the properties of isosceles triangle, we're going to solve a question like this. We need to find out x. We don't know what this angle is, but we can find out what it is because the lengths of these two sides are equal, which would make the base angles here equal. So it means this angle is 35 degrees. And now that we know the two angles at the base, we can then work out x. So we'll add 35 plus 35, which is 70. And to get x, we'll do 180 minus 70, which gives us 110 degrees, and that's the value for x. Now, on the third example, we need to find out x. Now, there's a line that extends, which is outside that triangle, so that is not a part of the sum of the angles in the triangle. However, inside the triangle itself, we do not know this angle here that I put a dot on, but we can find that one out to help us to find x. Now, where we have the line extended at 125, the angle we don't know here with the dot makes angles on a straight line. So it means this angle and this angle should be 180 degrees when added, because angles on a straight line is 180. So to find out this inside angle, right, we need to subtract the outside angle here, since it makes 180 with that angle. We do 180 minus 125, and that's going to give us 55 degrees. Now the angle here is 55 degrees, so I'm writing it next to it. And now that we know the two angles in the triangle, we can find out what x is. So we'll go and add 80 plus 55, which is going to give us 135. And then now that we know that's 135, x will be equal to 180 minus 135. And that's going to give us x being 45 degrees. So this does take a bit of practice for number 3, but just follow the steps and you should be fine. Let's look at some other examples of calculating angles in a triangle. And we have 2 examples, one here, 2, but I'm going to show you 2 methods for this question too, so I'll call it 2A and 2B. Alright, now for the first example, we need to find x. The triangle that has x in it doesn't have enough information to help us to find out the value of x, so we are going to use the big triangle that I'm going around. So the 3 angles that we have in that triangle are 58, 60, and the combination of 22 and x. So we're going to do 60 plus 58, which is 118, and then we'll do 180 minus 118, which is 62 degrees. This 62 degrees is representing the angles 22 and x. So to get x, what we'll have to do is 62 minus 22, and that's going to give us 40 degrees. So the value of x is 40. Now for question 2, we're looking at 2a. We need to find the external angle x. Now, there's a rule in geometry that says if you have one of the sides of the triangle extended to create an external angle, the 2 angles that are opposite to it and inside the triangle will add together to give that external angle. So let's call this one A and let's call this one B. What we're going to do is find out A and B, then add them together. So angles on a straight line here, so we'll have 180 minus 54, which gives us 26 degrees. Angles on a straight line at B is 180 minus 73, which is equal to 107. And once we add A and B, it will give us the value of the angle x that we want. So 26 plus 107 is equal to 133 degrees, and that is the value of x. The same problem we have at part 2b, but what we need to do is a few extra steps if we do not know the rule that I used in 2a. So to find this external angle x, we definitely need this angle. Let's call it C. But to get C, we're going to need to calculate these two angles here. Let's call them A and B. Earlier, we calculated A, which is 180 minus 154, because this angle is on a straight line, and that's 26. Then angle B, angle on a straight line again, 180 minus 73, and that's 107. And to get C, what we have to do is add 26 and 107, which is 133. Then take that away from 180, and that gives us 47 degrees. So it means that C here is 47. Now C and X are angles on a straight line, so what we'll have to do is just do 180 minus 47, and that's going to give us 133, and that will give us X. So we've gotten the same answer, but in part 2b we had a few extra steps, but it doesn't matter as long as we get to the final answer. Looked at a few examples of calculating angles in a triangle. I'd like you to go to show my homework and access the worksheet link. Spend no more than 20 minutes doing the questions, so you'll pause your video to get those done. Once you're through, access the answer link to mark your work. Once you're through doing that, resume the video for the next part of the lesson. Here are some other examples of angles in a quadrilateral, and we need to calculate missing angles. In the first question, we need to find out the value of x. It's an external angle, and so what we're going to do is find out the angle that is next to it on the straight line. But in order for us to do that, we will have to find out the angle that is next to 80 in the diagram. And so we're going to just call that one B and this one A. Okay, so we're going to start with calculating B first. Its angles on a straight line at that point, so it's 180 minus 80, which gives you 100, so B will work out to be 100. And to find A, we'll have to add 52, 141, and 100, and that gives us 293 degrees. Once you get that, you have to do 360 minus 293 to work out the value of A. And that gives us 67 degrees, so that means A is 67. Now we are in the position to find out the value of X. Now 67 and X are angles on a straight line. So to get X, we'll have to do 180 minus 67 degrees. And that will give us 113 degrees. So X is equal to 113. Now, our second example, we have a kite, and we've looked at properties of quadrilaterals. So when we look at our kite, we need to think about the angle properties when we're going to solve missing angles. Now, we know from the properties that the short side and the long side on both sides of the kite will create angles that are equal in size. So it means that y is equal to the angle opposite to it, and that's 100, so y is 100 degrees. Now we know that y is 100 degrees. We can work out the value of x. So we'll have to add 100 plus 100 plus 123, and that's going to give us 323. When we calculate that, to get the value of x now, we'll have to do 360 minus 323, and that's going to give us 37 degrees. So angle X is 37. Now for a final example, we have a trapezium that we need to work out the angle for. Now a trapezium, as we know, has one pair of parallel sides, and the angles that are across from each other on the parallel sides, the two I've circled, those two angles add to 180. They're called co-interior angles, but you'll look at that later on as you do your math. So these two angles I've circled add to 180. So that means y is going to be 180 minus 125, and that's going to give us 55 degrees. And the same goes for x and 68, because they're on opposite sides of the parallel lines in that location. Both of them should add to 180 as well. Co-interior angles, they're called, as I said. So x is going to be equal to 180 minus 68 degrees, and that is going to give us, one moment, 112 degrees. If we should add those four angles up to test if we're correct, we'll get 125 plus 68 plus 55 plus 112, and that should give us 360 degrees. So we have done the correct calculation. Now that we have looked at calculating angles in a quadrilateral, I'd like you to go to Show My Homework and access this worksheet link. You're going to pause your video and spend 20 minutes doing the questions. I will tell you what you need to do for bronze, silver, or gold. Once you're finished working out the problems, I'd like you to access the answer link to mark your work. Once you're through, I'd like you to send photos of your marked work and I will give you feedback. If at any time you need some help or you have a question during the lesson time, please send me a message on Show My Homework and I'll be happy to assist you. Thank you so much and have yourselves a lovely day.